tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Following us virtually, good morning participants who are here in Kenya and following this very important Congress. Physically, welcome to the joint 24th and 11th International Grassland and Rangeland Virtual Congress that is being hosted in Kenya and Africa for the first time. Today is our official opening, and we have our distinguished invited guests who have joined us. I'll be bringing them to come and give their key opening remarks. With us this morning is the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Lawrence Omuhaga, who is going to be our chief guest. With us also is the Principal Secretary, the State Department for Crop Development and Agricultural Research, Professor Hamadi Boga. Physically with us is the President of the International Rangeland Continuing Congress Committee, Professor Ray Smith, and following us virtually, and who will also give her opening remarks, is Professor Dana Kelly, the President of the International, we have Ray, who is the Chair of the International Grassland Continuing Committee, and Professor Dana Kelly, who is the President of the International Rangeland Congress, following us virtually. She will also give her remarks. Without much ado, it's now my singular honor to invite our first speaker, Professor Hamadi Boga, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Crop Development and Agricultural Research. Professor, the ground is yours.
The Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Cooperatives, Fisheries, who is in charge of Livestock and Fisheries, Lawrence Omuhaga, my colleague Harry Kimutai, Dr. Kireger, who is here in the House, and the President of the International Rangeland Congress, Professor Dana Kelly, and the Chairperson of the International Grasslands Congress, Professor Ray Smith, who is with us here. I think it's about 2 years ago or even earlier, after the cabinet of the government of Kenya had approved the holding of this conference, we had looked forward to a physical conference. But now, because of what happened, because of the COVID situation, we've had to resort to a virtual conference and a few participants in the room here physically, which is the way of working today around some of these problematic issues associated with the COVID pandemic. Nevertheless, the Ministry of Agriculture in Kenya is charged with the issue of ensuring 100% food and nutrition security Only 10% of Kenya is forest land or less, around 7% actually. The rest is rangeland, the rest is grassland. So for us, the grassland and the rangeland is all we have. And the small percentage that is green and forested is also where we do most of the cultivation. In the rangelands and in the grasslands, that's where we have most of the wildlife. We are a wildlife country. We are big on conservation, but we are also a livestock country. So we are big on livestock, and they coexist in the rangelands together with the wildlife, with a little bit of human-wildlife conflict, but they coexist. But we also notice degradation in the rangelands. We also notice degradation in the grasslands, especially due to overgrazing by livestock herders. And so as we discuss the issues of rangelands and grasslands, as a country and as the world, we have to look at ways and means to protect these very precious ecosystems. These ecosystems, apart from providing fodder for our grass, are centers of biodiversity. Some of the world-renowned grasses which have transformed the livestock sectors globally, like the Bracharia species and other species that are very good fodder for the livestock sector, have come out of this rich ecosystem that is here in Kenya and generally here in East Africa. I think there was one time I was meeting a livestock farmer, and he mentioned that he had imported seeds from Australia for a grass he had read that it is quite good for fodder. And once he planted and it germinated, he realized the grass was growing naturally in the same place he was trying to introduce. So I think as Calro and other researchers work, I think we need to continue documenting the biodiversity that is in our grasslands and characterizing its value for the ecosystem as well as its value for some of our agricultural activities, especially the livestock. And I think as we work with the pastoralist community, we need to think very seriously about how to mitigate the effects of their pastoral activity on the grasslands. And of course, we are struggling with the problem of a growing population that is looking for more settlement areas, and most of the settlements are again found within these grasslands. As a government, we have tried to create protected areas, but there's serious pressure because of the increasing population. The issue of climate is an issue that is affecting all ecosystems. And in our discussions as a government of Kenya, we are moving forward, working collaboratively with different stakeholders to address the issue of landscape restoration, where degradation has taken place. And some of the biggest ecosystems that we are looking at, working with development partners, includes the Mara, which everybody knows it's a grassland, but it's a grassland under threat, both because of catchment issues, but because of overgrazing and other issues, as well as the Tsavo ecosystem. The Mara and the Tsavo combined are big rangeland and grasslands that need proper care. And together with the Ministry of Environment here and other development partners, we are working on a program on how to restore some of these degraded landscapes. So for us as a country, we know we have to support our farmers, but we have to support them to live within the means, being climate smart through some of the programs that we run, like the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project, but also making them resilient, making them to adopt technologies and methodologies that are friendly and that will lead to sustainability of our grasslands and sustainability of our rangelands, even as we struggle to improve their incomes and improve their livelihoods and at the same time ensure sustainability of the environment. So as a country, we are very conscious of what is happening in this landscape, and will continue improving the interaction with the various players to make sure that, as the theme of the conference says, we use the grasslands and rangelands sustainably. Thank you very much, and let the conference proceed as we listen and learn and share in what is happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for highlighting the ecosystems that are available in our country, and also mentioning some of the very important species that have played a big role in the development of the livestock sector, not only in Kenya, but in the whole world. The next speaker who is going to give her remarks is Professor Dana Kelly, the President of the International Rangeland Congress, continuing committee. She's going to address us live, virtually from Queensland, Australia. Professor Kelly, the floor is yours. Professor Kelly, please, you're muted. We are not able to hear you. We request that you start again. Okay, just proceed, Professor. I think we're having a challenge. Professor Kelly, you can now proceed. We're having challenges here, but for your side, you can proceed because the rest are hearing you, except a few of us.
Congress Professor Roy Smith, the President Continuing Committee of the International Rangeland Congress, Professor Dan Kelly, our Principal Secretaries present, my brother Professor Madi Boga, and my brother Harry Kimtai, Director General Kalro, the Chairman of Animal Production Society of Kenya, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Here on behalf of the Minister for Agriculture, my name, as we are told, is Lawrence Omuhaka, Chief Administrative Secretary, formerly called Deputy Minister for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries, Cooperatives, and Blue Economy. The Minister would really have wished to be here, but he was given another assignment by His Excellency the President. And in public service, when you are given instructions, you say yes, sir, and go. And then you order the next one. So when you're told by the President to go and represent him in another function, you say yes, sir. And when he told me, I also said yes, sir. That's why I'm here. It gives me great pleasure to participate in this special occasion of the opening of the Joint International Grassland and Rangeland Congress. I am informed that this is the 24th International Grassland Congress and the 11th International Rangeland Congress, although the two congresses have been held for many years, with the International Grassland Congress having history over 100 years. and that this is the first such Congress in Africa. I want to take this early opportunity to thank the IGC and IRC, our continuing committees, for deciding to hold this first joint meeting in Africa and here in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the conference is sustainable use of grassland, rangeland resources for improved livelihoods. An appropriate theme responding to the challenges of the times where we are faced with challenges ranging from climate change to COVID-19 pandemic. The importance of grassland and rangeland to the economy of Kenya and indeed the Horn of Africa cannot be overemphasized. In Kenya, the grasslands cover 83% of our land, supporting 70% of the livestock and 83% of our wildlife. We have about 10 million people who are living in this area, and they're living from the same. Rangeland Management and Pastoralism Strategy 2021, which was developed by the national government, provides deliberate actions towards the realization of sustainable development of the rangelands in Kenya, recognizing the need for climate change, adoption, and mitigation for better livelihoods, in line with our obligation as a signatory to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The strategy has clear objectives of reducing land degradation and restoring degraded areas, while increasing land productivity, as well as sustainability, exploring the existing natural resources, development and adoption of appropriate technologies, supporting enterprise development and marketing products. And finally, the promotion of other sustainable livelihoods in the rangelands beside livestock production. This is also articulated through the country's Vision 2030 and the presidential Big Four agenda, which identified agriculture as one of the key sectors of to deliver the economic growth. And more recently, in our economic stimulus package, re-emphasized the need for increased investment in the sector. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, agriculture is key. We contribute, as agriculture contribute 60% to our gross domestic product. And livestock is also equally key. Out of the 60% that we contribute, 40% is contributed by livestock. And that's why we are very happy that we are here in this conference and is held in our country. The ministry recognizes the role of agriculture, agricultural research, and understands that the success of the sector is attributed to the agricultural research development initiatives and knowledge sharing. I am glad that the Joint International Grassland and Rangeland Congress brings together scientists, policymakers, and practitioners to promote the interchange of scientific and technical information on all aspects of grasslands and rangelands, ranging from the ecology and forage production through the livestock production systems, wildlife and tourism, to capacity building of our institutions and adoption of innovations, sustainable development. I hope the scientific and technical information will be made available towards improved productivity of the grasslands and rangelands globally, including Kenya and the entire Horn of Africa. Allow me to turn to climate change issues. Nowhere has it been more acutely felt than in Africa. The productivity of the grasslands and rangelands is increasingly under threat, and in the recent decades, where factors from climate change have led to environmental variability, leading to frequent droughts, fires, floods, land degradation, and loss of biodiversity. These have threatened the sustainability of the rangeland resources and created economic challenges that need urgent attention to safeguard the well-being of the communities, particularly pastoralists. This year, Kenya and the Horn of Africa countries are currently facing major drought that is threatening the productive assets of the pastoralists, that's their livestock. Our President, His Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, recently declared the current drought and national disaster, to enable the country to mobilize resources to protect the livelihoods of the people living mainly in the arid and semi-arid grasslands and rangelands in Kenya. Urgent measures and other interventions are therefore required to protect the grassland and rangelands resources and enhance their sustainable utilization. Thus, as a ministry, recognize the threats climate poses to sustainable development. We are actively integrating climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies into our national policies. In this regard, the National Climate Change Response Strategy focuses on reducing vulnerabilities to climate change and improvement of the country's response to climate change. Kenya is also a signatory to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the active participant in the COP25. We are also ratified the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, which is the sole legally binding international agreement taking environment and development to sustainable and land management. While the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification addresses the reduction of land degradation, enhanced land productivity, sustainable utilization of natural resources, development and adoption of appropriate technologies, among others, the Kenya strategy